All right, welcome back. We are ACI Course 9, Class 4 on June 19th, 2025 in my world. Oh, huh? I just said my language was Russian. Oh, well, maybe it will be. So let's gather our minds here. As we usually do, please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Everybody still hears me, correct? Okay. Now bring to mind that being before you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, and see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiates from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize that the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Deep down, we know this is what we're meant to become. Learning about karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with that strong intention, turn your mind back to that precious holy guide. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet, to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings come to fully awaken in order to benefit everyone in their world. So we're studying the Pratimoksha vows, the individual freedom vows. And we learned that the individual freedom vows are called individual freedom vows because the individual who gets them, keeps them, reaches their freedom, and those who don't won't. And as I've studied it, it's like it also shows us that individual freedom vows are directed towards an individual freedom, meaning the distinction between reaching nirvana versus reaching Buddhahood. So when we reach our nirvana, it's when that's our goal, it's because our renunciation is our own suffering and its unacceptability. And we want to reach that place where we become free of mental afflictions. We're aspiring to reach our own nirvana. So the individual freedom, the pratimoksha level of morality, is the morality with that goal as its result. And Mahayana says, well, you'll reach that along the way to your Buddhahood. So just go for Buddhahood. But it's not that, right? you're at a fork in the road, and one fork goes Hinayana, Nirvana, and the other one says Mahayana, and you have to decide, do I go that way or do I go this way, as if they're unrelated things. And that's the mistake, is that you don't reach a fork in the road. You're going along your path, whether your heart has said, I want to reach nirvana because that's the highest I can do, or your heart has said, I want to reach Buddhahood because that's the highest I can do. Either way, you've got the part of the path where you are working on your own individual freedom vows. So those vows are still part of the path. The individual freedom morality is a foundation for the Mahayana morality to happen. So we can have the seeds to be attracted straight up to the Mahayana, and even jump right in to working at Mahayana morality, which is the 6 perfections. And even then, the second perfection is moral discipline. And it's like, oh, there's the pratimoksha level practice. So we can think we skipped grades and go to Mahayana, and then we're going to meet up with the pratimoksha anyway. Or we can start on pratimoksha, and as our heart opens up, it's like, oh, wow, I see. This is true for everybody. I want to help everybody. Then our morality training serves us just all that much better, because we've already habituated to it by the time we're turning our minds onto our 6 perfections morality. And so that it's called a lesser level morality, in the sense that it's a Hinayana level morality, but it's the foundation for everything, right? It's foundation for all of it, nirvana or Buddhahood. So we take our pratimoksha vows very seriously, so that, because they're going to help us along the way. So then we learn those 6 different things about those individual freedom vows. And then Jesson Kappa gave us that general description of what the vows are all about. And it was that verse, it is a turning away from harming others and its basis, caused by an attitude of renunciation. And the turning away from harming others is referring to learning to avoid the first 7 of the 10 non-virtues. And then the basis, learning, right, how to recognize and transform the basis, is referring to those 3 mind non-virtues of the coveting, ill will, and wrong view, because those are the states of mind that compel us to do the 7. So we don't take vows to avoid coveting, ill will, because those mental states are too fleeting and intangible to be able to take and hold vows for. Later, we actually do get vows that are thought vows. So they call them the basis for the 7 that we're really working with. So as we work with avoiding the 7, we have to be addressing these states of mind of jealousy, ill will, and wrong view in order to be choosing a different behavior. Right? So it works out that you're working on all of them. Anyway, beautiful system. So this class, Jetson Kappa is going to go into greater specifics about those 8 kinds of individual freedom vows. Again, we can't go into the details of ordained person vows, but we can get the gist of it so that we can understand the different choices that we have available to us along our path for formally committing ourselves to certain kinds of disciplined behavior. We can do the behaviors formally committed or not. Like, do the behaviors meaning avoid the negative behaviors. When we take a vow to avoid them, we've heard those benefits in terms of the impact on our mind for our spiritual path. So let me get the screen share. Thank you, bigger. Can't get everybody. Who am I missing? Claire and Natty. Okay. All right. So the individual freedom vows are divided into Kimpe Choki Dompa and Rabjung Choki Dompa. Kimpe Choki Dompa means householder type vows. Dompa is vows. Choki Dompa means type vows. And I don't know if it means type of vows or if it means the type of person taking the vows, but it's just these are the vows of whom? The Kimpe. Kimpe means a householder, meaning someone living a human life, human worldly life at home, implying there's other people there, but you're right, living by ourselves would be included. It's the person who, right, normal human life, you go to work, you do something to make a living, right? You have interests, you have likes and dislikes, and right, I think we all know normal human life, householder life it's called. Rabjung Chuki Dompa is the vows of the Rabjung person. Rabjung literally means to really come out. What it's trying to convey is to have come out of that home life, come out, left the family life. So it's the term that they use for someone who has taken ordination or joined the monastery, which in the old days, you know, when you took your ordination, you went and lived in the monastery. You know, or even before monasteries were there, when you took ordination, you went and lived with the sangha of monks or nuns who maybe didn't even have a place that they lived. You know, there they were in, you know, Vulture's Peak in the park there, and they're staying there on somebody's behest. And then Buddha says, yeah, we need to go over there. And they all, right, walk to the new place. And now they're living there. So they didn't even have a home, technically. And then monasteries developed. But you left home, whether it happened when you were a little kid or anywhere along the way, you've cut your ties with what was your home life. You've given up all ownership. You've given up your relationships. Is your mom still your mom? Yes, of course. But right, your focus now is your life with your monastic family, I guess I could say. There are vows that establish us as having fully left the home life. And not everybody is it appropriate to fully leave the home life. But it doesn't mean that we're doomed to be lesser practitioners in any way, shape, or form. We just have fewer vows. So we have this distinction. Technically, there's a third level, like an in-between level, where someone who wants to definitely leave the home life will go and take a ceremony in which they agree to grow this ability to leave the home life. And they actually get robes and they follow a certain preliminary of behavior, discipline, instructions for a certain period of time before they then go and take their formal ceremony of getting their ordained vows. So it's sweet. Somebody might say, I'm really inclined, but I'm just not really sure I can do it. It's like, okay, let's do this middle piece and see how it goes, right? And you're always free to say, oh, no, not now, right? And let that middle level, not really vow, but commitment, then wear out and go back to being a householder. I don't know within the modern tradition how that's being used necessarily, but it's an option. So Jetsu Kappa starts with the householder vows to describe them in some detail because he can, and then we'll go on and hear about the Rabchung vows and their levels, but without the details, as I say. So within the Kimpei Choki Donpa, the vows of a lifeholder, one set of those vows is called the Nyunne. Wait, this is spelled wrong, Sorani. Nyunne. Looks like Nyenne, but it's Nyunne. It means the one-day vows. So it seems to me when Diamond Mountain was doing the medicine Buddha practices, then they were then needing to be sure that people had their Bodhisattva vows, because you were getting medicine Buddha, which is a level of Diamond Way in which you get your Bodhisattva vows whether you know it or not. So you got them knowing them. But then they also gave you these one-day vows where you had to get up in the dark and there was a preceptor that took us through the ceremony. Do you remember? And then we lived for that 24-hour period of time, really, really, really conscientiously avoiding certain things. And then when the sun comes up the next day and you can see the lines on your hand, those vows are done. And after you've received them from a preceptor the first time, you can then go before your image of a Buddha and give yourself the one-day vows anytime you want to. And when you learn those for medicine during medicine Buddha, what you learned was the Mahayana one-day vows, which I'll get to in a minute. And there's a different motivation for taking your one-day vows as a Mahayana one-day vows, but the vows are the same as these. The Nyingne is the 1-day vow from the individual freedom vows level of discipline, practice of discipline. The I wanna reach nirvana motivation of discipline. To take your 1-day vows as a whole householder, right? You say, this 24-hour period, I'm going to very intentionally live as if I'm a really, really high level ordained person. Like I'm going to live even as if I'm an arhat. Like free of all these attachments, free of all this interest, free of all these mental afflictions. And we go through this day following these very specific behaviors just for the 24-hour period of time as a method of generating the goodness to reach nirvana, the Nyingne. They have 8 separate commitments for that 24-hour period of time, 4 primary ones and 4 secondary ones. The 4 primary ones are Mitsungchu, Majinlen, Sokchu, and Zunma. Mitsungchu, literally the words mean not clean activity. It's the word that's used for sexual activity, not meaning that sexual activity is in itself some kind of unclean behavior, but that particular activity in ignorant beings is so enmeshed in mental afflictions and misunderstandings of that it gathers a lot of not clean seeds because of all the baggage, let's say that. And so from time to time, it's a really useful thing for our mental state to decide, I'm going to avoid that. You know, no matter what, I'm going to avoid that behavior for a certain period of time. Here, it's only 24 hours. That avoiding any sexual activity has a big impact on our subtle body as well. So it's not that we're working with the subtle body at this level of pratimoksha at all, but the actions that we do are still having an effect. So that when we get to practices where we're intentionally working with our subtle body, one of the things that can be very, very helpful to make our subtle body work go more smoothly is to intentionally establish a period of time of celibacy before going into those practices. So later, right? This is all information for now. So for one day, one 24-hour period of time, we intentionally forego any sexual activity, anything close to sexual activity, right? Our 5 lifetime layperson vows surrounding sexual activity is, right, I'll avoid adultery. We'll get there, we'll talk about that. But for one day, second one, Majin Len. Majin Len means not taken, given, meaning to not take what has not been given. So it means avoid stealing, but this is more subtle than stealing, to avoid taking what's not been given. how do you define that? Like anything of value for us to take when the owner of the thing of value hasn't said, help yourself, or here, this is for you, or right, freely offered it. So if we know somebody owns something, then we need permission to use it, take it. And to use it or take it without permission is this taking the not given. And, we take one pencil home from the office. We don't even think twice. But suppose we take a pencil home from the office, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week, and we don't think anything of it. But after we've worked at the office for a year, it's like, oh my gosh, I've taken 100 pens. And we still think, oh, well, whoops. But what if you were like decide one day, I'm going to take 100 pencils from the office home? It's like, oh, no, that would be stealing. Well, do you see? So we're looking at things in these more and more subtle ways, especially for 24 hours. So for that 24 hours, you don't even take the one pencil home. Right? You're very, very careful. Probably for that 24 hours, you're not going into work anyway, but same thing for whatever other interaction that you're doing. There's nobody watching you but you in your 24-hour vows. So it's like there's nobody else's criteria for what qualifies as stealing. We could even steal somebody's time, right? If we commandeer their time. Let me tell you about my one-day vows. Yeah. Right? So it's our job for the 24 hours to be living this conscientiously. Sok chu, the third one. Sok means life, chu means to cut life. So killing, taking life, any life, or being the cause for somebody else to do it, or contributing, or somehow somebody else has killed something or had to kill something in order for me to get whatever it was. So again, for this 24-hour period of time, we're deciding I'm going to be ever so careful to avoid killing or contributing to killing in any way. And then you decide what's that going to look like for my day. Maybe you have a lawn out in the front of your yard and it's got all kinds of bugs in it. It's like, okay, for this day, I'm not even going to go walk on the grass, right? Because I might hurt somebody, right? But just for the 24-hour period of time. Zunma. Zunma means to speak falsely. So lying, giving a false impression. The worst one we understand is saying we've seen emptiness directly when we haven't. And Geshe always says, you will know it when you do it. So there won't be any question. So if you think, well, I'm not quite sure, then you haven't. So don't talk about having done so. They also say you don't speak about spiritual realizations that you haven't had, right? So lying about our spiritual practice is the worst kind of false speech. But for our 24 hours, it's like we're trying to be really, really, really pure. So many people decide for my 24-hour vows, I'm just going to be silent, right? I can't lie to anybody if I don't say anything but my prayers and my mantra, right, or whatever you're going to be doing for that day. Although I know there are some verses in my prayers that it's like, if I say those out loud, wait a minute, I'm not quite sure that wouldn't be on the verge of giving a false impression. But so it's not prescribed to do your 24-hour vows in silence, but many people do for that added benefit of making sure that we don't inadvertently say something that gives the false impression. Like even, I don't know, just casual, useless talk, we'll be saying stuff that we're not careful about, somebody could misunderstand. Okay. So we're trying to avoid, we are avoiding these 4 behaviors in obvious and very subtle ways, as subtle as we can get. Then the next 4, they're called the secondary. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I got to get another one here. There they are. Melchete, Changtung, Garsok Trengsok, and Chidrokase. Melchete means seats or beds too costly or high, which seems like an odd one. It means using luxurious, expensive furniture or things. For one day, we're trying to live exceptionally simply, unattached to our things in terms of the usual way we relate to our things that belong to us, is that, you know, that beautiful furniture in our living room, it reflects something about ourselves, that we can afford it, that we can take care of it, that it's beautiful, all of that, right? We have these attachments to and beliefs that they reflect something special about us, and they inflate our little ignorant egos. And I'm not saying it's bad to have lovely furniture in your room, but for this 1 24-hour period, when we're wanting to break through those attachments, we decide, I'm just not going to use all that stuff, right? I don't need to use it. Well, what am I going to do? Sit on the floor? Yeah, why not? Get out a blanket, sit on the floor, get a pillow, right? Get your meditation cushion and bring it out to the living room. Well, wait, am I going to eat my meal sitting on the floor? Why not? No, who needs to sit at that beautiful table? Well, what if your furniture isn't beautiful, high, lofty, expensive furniture? Can you use it then? Sure, of course you can. But, you know, what if you decide, no, what would it be like to be not even attached to my old funky furniture? No, Samati and I, back when we first had some abundance in 1980, we bought a set of furniture, and it was the teak wood furniture. We thought, you know, it was so beautiful. We loved it so much. And for us, we spent a lot of money on it. And we took really, really good care of it because we were so proud of it and we wanted it to last a long time. And then, you know, we moved it a couple of times. Finally, we moved it to Diamond Mountain with us. And then when we went into retreat, it's like, here, this is all yours, Diamond Mountain. And when we came out of retreat, you know, and we look at it and it's like, clearly other people weren't as fond as that furniture as we were, because, you know, it had taken a beating in 3 years that it hadn't taken in the 20 years that we had it before that, longer than that. And it's like, okay, fine, it's not ours anymore, good. And then we moved to Tucson, And the little house that we bought is really, really full of big people furniture, and it was too much. And we thought maybe Diamond Mountain would swap with us, and we can give them all this furniture. They can disperse it around the property, and maybe we can get our precious teakwood furniture back again. They said, great. So it all came back, right? We tried to give it away, and then we got it back again. And to us, it's still precious and beautiful. But when I look with somebody else's eyes, it's like, why in the world you haven't gotten a new dining room table? You guys, for crying out loud, you've had it since 1980. Because to us, it's still our fancy, beautiful, right? So in my 24-hour vows, I would say, okay, I'm not going to use my fancy, beautiful dining room table, even though it's neither fancy nor beautiful anymore. But in my mind, my attachment to it still is. And that's what I'm getting at. Do you see? That's our 24-hour vow level of working with our own mind and our interaction with our everyday life. Okay. Seats or beds too costly or high? To cut our attachments. Then next one. Well, how am I doing? Next one. Chongtung. Tung means to drink, and chong is beer, but meaning alcohol, meaning intoxicants. So to avoid taking intoxicants for that 124-hour period of time, to avoid influencing, using an outside substance to influence our mind. Let me change that. Using an outside substance that changes our mind, that makes our conscientiousness about our behavior lower. Right? There's something about alcohol that when we imbibe, our ability to choose our behavior according to a certain criteria slips. And the end result is that we do things that hurt ourselves and hurt others. And we say, no, I can drink 2 beers. I don't know. I've never been an alcohol drinker, so I don't really know. But suppose I can drink 2 beers, but when I drink my third one, that's when I get silly. The first 2, I just relax and feel so much better. So I can drink 2, but not 3. And, maybe so, maybe not, but not for your 1-day vows day. Right? 1-day vows, we are trying to be so careful in our keeping our mindfulness clean, clear, alert, directed, that we're not even willing to take a finger dip of that substance, because that's enough to influence the level of subtlety we're trying to be on. Am I on that level of subtlety during my 24-hour vows? No, but I'm pretending to be. And so I will avoid that substance, don't even let me see it. Keep it away from me that far, especially if we have an attraction to it. So avoiding intoxicating or intoxicating anybody else's mind. So if I don't know, if your 1-day vows, you're still around other people that don't have 1-day vows, and you and your other people typically have a glass of wine for dinner, and you're sitting down to dinner, you pick up the bottle, pour them their glass of wine. And it's like, oops, no, right? My 24-hour vows say I don't even participate in that. Technically, you're probably not going to be sitting down at dinner with them either because of what's coming next. But right, just as the example of the subtlety we're trying to get at for our 24-hour vows. Okay, the next one. Gar sok, dreng sok. Sok means etc. So gar means dance, dance, etc. And drang means flowers, etc. So this one says for a 24-hour period of time, I will avoid dancing, singing, playing music, wearing flowers or flower garlands, dressing myself up, using cosmetics, perfumes. That's all the etc. in both of those. So we are again for 24-hour period of time living ever so simply and ever so mindfully, so that there's no need, no interest in all of those entertainments, or in the entertainment of needing to dress myself up in a certain way to help me feel better about myself, or to help somebody else feel better about me. Whatever reasons we use to get made up, dressed up, etc. Just for 24-hour period of time. Something's tapping at my door out there. The reason being, not that there's anything wrong with all of those behaviors, but that all of those behaviors become distracting factors in our meditative concentration. So it doesn't mean that during singing and dancing there's anything wrong. They do tend to lead to a little more wild behavior, which is where they could take us off in the wrong direction. But then in our meditation subsequent, apparently all of that enjoyment will rattle around in our consciousness and activate these distractions. Not that you necessarily sit down to meditate and remember the Thursday night dance that you went to, but the agitation of the mind that's going on there affects our meditation practice. So again, for that 24-hour period of time, we are planting seeds in our minds that we're hoping will go on to help influence our meditative concentration, so that it can come to that same kind of high level conscientious mindfulness on our cushion, so that we can reach that platform from which we can have the realizations, from which we can make this transformation to one with no mental afflictions at all, nirvana, just what we're talking about here, or one who is fully omniscient when we do the same behaviors for this different reason. Okay. So generally, okay, so there's one more, the chidro kase. Chidro means the afternoon, and kase is food. So this one means to take food in the afternoon. So in the olden days, when you had left the home life and you're following Buddha, the monks, the nuns, they would take their begging bowl and go out for a meal, right? We heard it in Diamond Cutter Sutra, right? And whatever they're given is what they're given. And when they've got a bowl full, they go back, they sit down to eat, presumably, if, one poor monk comes back with, one little tomato and another monk's got a huge bowl full, probably they share. But either way, you sit down and you eat, and then you clean up and you put everything away, and eating is done for the day. And no more going out begging again. No keeping some back for a snack later on. Just one eating, however long it takes to finish what you were given, you finish it and then done. If we could imagine, maybe not having to go out and beg, but imagine that you get up first thing in the morning and you make and eat your meal for the day and put it all away, and the rest of the day, no need to think about food preparation, cleanup, nothing. Right? If you're the mom of a family and you're making breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it's like that's about all you do, with some laundry thrown in and then sweep the floor. Like, it's mealtime, mealtime, mealtime. Imagine what it would be like. It's like one time you're free the rest of the day. So we're trying to approximate that kind of freedom on that one day. So in your planning for that day, have what you need to make your one meal. Make your one meal. Eat it in one sitting, however long it takes you. And when you're done, be done before noon. How long before noon? Whatever you want, right? You got up in the dark, you took your vows. You decide when it is you want to do your eat, but have it finished by noon, and then put it all away and no more eating after that. Now it's like, oh, but I have blood sugar problems. Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. You can drink things like clear liquids, ground up vegetables you can drink. You just avoid milk, yogurt, milk product type drinks. And why they just distinguish those exactly, I don't know. But their intention is, water the rest of the day, so that you're free. You don't have to think about all that stuff anymore. Chidro kase. So then probably you're going to do your 24-hour vows on a day that you don't need to go to work. Because, when we're active, we're involved. We need the nourishment of food, middle of that, to keep us going. Don't try to do one-day vows at your work. Right? It's just too hard. Give yourself one-day vows on a day that you can be home. Even arrange for your family to go have some fun day somewhere and leave you home alone, or you go someplace where you're home alone, so that keeping the vowed behavior becomes easier, at least until it is easy. Then if you want to challenge yourself and, say to your family, yeah, help me do my one-day vows. I'm going to do one-day vows. So I'm going to go into silence. I'm going to eat only once. I'm going to study and practice and chant, and right. And you do all the stuff that you do around me, but this is what I'm doing. Right? It would be challenging to do that. So don't do it as a beginner. But right, you don't have to kick them out to do your one-day vows. Okay. So it's a really special thing to do from time to time. And you decide when or if or how often you're going to do it. And then once you learn it from the preceptor the first time, you learn how to do it, how to do the whole day. ideally, you and the preceptor would do a whole day together. And then you're launched to do it on your own. Which is how I learned them. Okay, so I had mentioned that these 24-hour vows are also called Tekchen Sojong. Tekchen means Mahayana. Sojong is that repair and purify. So to do a Tekchen Sojong means you get the practice from a preceptor the first time, and then after that you can get up at night, but before the sun has risen, when it's still dark out, and you go before your image of the Buddha and you give yourself your one-day vows. And you then do your 24 hours in this same way, the same 8 things that we are avoiding. Only now our motivation is, I'm using these vows and this careful avoiding behavior to purify all the behaviors of having done those things that I'm avoiding now, and to gather the goodness of going through one 24-hour period without doing them, so that I can become a being who can help everybody become a being who can help everybody become a being who is free of suffering, right? So this one, the motivation is out of bodhicitta, which is why it's called Tekchen Sojong. So technically speaking, the Nyinye and the Tekchen Sojong, they are different practices, but the practice itself is the same. Right? So you don't interchange. Either you're doing the Nyinye or you're doing Tekchen Sojong. Once we have Bodhisattva vows, then we'll be doing Tekchen Sojong, because we've already declared ourselves on the path to Buddhahood. And it would be like going backwards to say, oh, I'm going to do a Hinayana level 24-hour vows. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, to be honest with you. But once we've declared ourselves on the higher path, to then go back and declare yourself on a lower path is like saying to yourself, I either don't believe my higher path, or I don't believe I can really do it, or right. It's a little bit damaging to our higher vows. But if that were exactly right, then a householder with bodhisattva vows, they would not let go back and get ordained vows, but they do. So it's like, this is when I got on the shelf, because they let me get ordained vows after I even had tantric vows, because it occurred to me, I'm already living like that. I want vow credit. And Lama said, good idea. So, but we get the difference. The process is the same. The impact in our mind is a little different between doing 24 hours in order to reach nirvana, or 24 hours in order to reach Buddhahood, and nirvana comes along the way. All right, let's take a break. Let's take a break. Stop share, pause recording. Pause. Do you see? But it just is like, All
But
right.
it's also like we talk about the wish. I don't really know what all sentient beings are, and I can't even think of all of them. Even if I really want to, I don't know about all the creatures that in the ocean. Like I don't have that understanding, or all the mini creatures that in the grass or that I can't see.
Right.
So
So
we're
are
all just
we
like
lying to ourselves to say I have bodhicitta?
a little bit.
A little bit. Yes, Dinara, what do you think?
I think maybe motivation matters.
Yeah, very much.
Motivation for like lying. But I wanted to ask you about different thing. Can you set me up, please, as a translator? Because I know she has to run.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, stop
Sorry.
this. Stop this. Thank you, Anur. You left. I'll put you in here. No, don't need that one. Need that one. Did it go?
Not
Oopsie,
yet.
not joined. What? She is too joined. All right, let me start over. What's going wrong here? Okay. So for 24-hour vows that we'll all be taking as Tekjen Sojong, probably using in that way. It's typical to do them on those sacred days where the merit multiplies. Like Sagadawa, Day of Miracles, anytime within that 2 weeks of miracles, first turning of the wheel day. Those days are days where goodness multiplies by some huge amount. And so to spend 24 hours living in this really, really highly conscious, conscientiously, harmlessly way in order to purify old habits and make merit, to make that merit that's huger than what it otherwise would. You see, it's just like a trick of the system. But you're welcome to take them any day you wish and as often as you wish. And I know that I know a woman who was thinking to become a nun, but hadn't yet. And when she would go into retreat, she would give herself 1 day vows every morning as the first thing she did in retreat. So when she was in a, month, 6 week retreat, she was doing 24-hour vows every single day, which is very similar to having nuns vows for a day. It was really smart, actually. And then she did go on to get her ordained status. Okay, so let's go on. That was all one set of vows that lifetime lay people can take. Sorry, don't mean lifetime lay people can take. Then another set of vows that lay people can take are called the Genyin. Genyin, they roll it into one word, Genyin. Genyin means lifetime layperson's vows. Many of us probably have those already. There are 5. And they're very specific in what it is that we're pledging to avoid doing. And so when we learn about them, it's like, wow, those shouldn't be so hard to keep. And so it encourages us to be willing to actually take them somewhere along the way of our renunciation turned on to others, where we're wanting to make a greater impact on our new behaviors. So this isn't Mahayana, not Mahayana. This is technically from the Vinaya level, right? A Vinaya ethics. And they are the same, whether you are Vinaya ethics motivated or Mahayana motivated. So these 5 layperson's vows, they are the same for men and women, but they're called the lifetime lay man's vows and the lifetime lay woman's vows. They aren't just called lifetime lay vows, and it doesn't matter man or woman who takes them. For some reason, they are different categories of vows, but the vows themselves are the same. So the first one is, I will avoid killing a human or a human fetus. Right? For the 24-hour period of time, I'm going to avoid killing or contributing to killing to the very best of my ability. For all day, every day, I am going to avoid killing a human and avoid killing a human fetus. Why are those what's pinpointed? Because a human, any human, is closer to reaching enlightenment in that lifetime than any other kind of being. So it doesn't matter whether that human is a axe murderer. They're still human. And so they have the capacity to reach enlightenment in that lifetime. It's gonna take some work, but right. And so it's not that their life is more precious than a mosquito. It's that the impact on our mind for contributing to the end of their life is so much greater that we decide that we ourselves need to avoid, like the plague, contributing to some human's death, even if it hasn't quite been born yet. Come out of the womb yet. Technically, because when the egg and sperm meet, that's being born in this tradition. Second one, I will avoid stealing anything of worth, which also is a little bit slippery, because worth according to whom? It must be worth something to me or I wouldn't take it. And so it's not so much that criteria, it's the criteria of, would the person who owns it that you're taking it from, would they feel like they've been stolen from? You know, if you have somebody staying in your house and when they leave, you realize, you know, one of your 100 pencils is gone, would you be upset with them? probably good riddance. But what if you found, I don't know, your set of your Encyclopedia Britannica is gone? And it's like, hey, wait a minute, right? They took that from me, right? It's the criteria, but then they would have to have seen it that way too. Maybe something you had said implied to them that you'd be just as happy to have your Encyclopedia Britannica set disappear. In which case, when they took it, they thought they were doing you a favor. Right? Their imprint on their mind was, I'm going to help out. Now, probably they should have said, would you like me to take that off your hands? And I could have said yes or no. The doing it without clear communication is how we solve this whole problem. But the idea is, when we take our lifetime lay vows, we're pledging to be so aware of things that other people's sense of ownership, that we will not interfere with that, right, to the best of our ability. Why? Why is that so important? Because the karmic effect of taking what isn't ours is that things that are ours get taken from us, whether somebody steals from us or we lose them or some disaster strikes and the house burns down, right? My things are no longer available to me because I planted the seeds of making other people's things not available to them. So it goes beyond just getting stolen from. It's like we just can't get our needs met if we let ourselves take the not given. So we're pledging to avoid doing that. But something that would make somebody else feel I've been stolen from would break this vow, not the occasional pencil from work. But then if we have a situation where we do tend to do that, we would want to go to our boss and say, from time to time, I end up taking a pencil from work. Do you need me to bring them all back? Or, you need to lay it out so that the boss has the opportunity to say, not to worry, just make sure it's, not a regular thing. Or the boss says, no, absolutely not. Then we need to stop doing it, right? Clarify it with your place of work so that we're not just assuming it's okay. Like everybody does it, so it must be okay. We're not into everybody else's what's right and what's wrong on this path. Okay? Because society's right and wrong is mistakenly directed. We're swimming upstream here. Yes, Tom.
I'm wondering, like, do you need to tell the other person about it? Meaning, if you think that what you're doing, how you say, like, not reflecting well with your vows, why don't you just bring the pens back? Or just, does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, when you decide, oh my gosh, all of that was subtly wrong behavior, I'm going to fix it. Fix it. You don't
Yeah, just
necessarily
fix
have to
it.
sit down.
Oh, okay. I thought this, like, there's something special about letting know the other side about it.
No, what I meant was, if we're in the position of, we realize, oh my gosh, I really am taking things from work or whatever, I would want to check with my boss to see if that's expected. If the business expects people to take pencils home from time to time, then, it's not wrong. You might still want to stop doing it, but you've gotten the business to clarify, right? What's acceptable and then what's not, so that you can be more clear about, write the line for yourself. Don't have to, just a suggestion for clarity.
Thank you.
Third one is I will avoid lying about my spiritual life. So we're not saying I will avoid lying at all for the 5 lifetime lay vows. I will avoid giving the wrong impression about my spiritual level or spiritual realizations or etc. Right? Especially avoid saying or implying that we've seen emptiness when we haven't, that we're giving the intentionally wrong impression of our level of realizations, because our own mind is listening. It knows why we're saying what we're saying and whether what we're saying is true or not. And if it's not true, right, the seeds that we're planting in our mind is to hear other people and not able to believe them about their realizations, whether they're saying it or not. So it would influence our mind to where, everybody sees so-and-so as this really high realized being. It's like, I just see him as a jerk, because the seeds in my mind don't trust or don't see the goodness, because I was giving the wrong impression about my own, for instance. So again, it's not whether the other person hears you and knows that it's not true. It's not about so much that it is about the impact on the other person, but it's about your own mind hearing you saying stuff about your realizations that's not true. Yeah, but what if somebody asks you straight out, have you seen emptiness directly? And you have, and you say, no. Like, isn't that also lying about your spiritual practice? So you wouldn't do that either. I know Geshe always says, beings with realizations are really good at changing the subject. But then isn't that not answering the question, which we have Bodhisattva vows about avoiding not answering questions, right? It's like, man, this is all slippery business. Right. Because our ignorance is so cagey, right? That it sneaks itself into everything and makes us think it's the right thing to do, whatever our ignorance thinks is right. So our efforts to keep our 5 lifetime lay vows, right? We get it. It's like, just don't speak about your spiritual realizations, live according to them. And you're not lying to anybody. Fourth one, I will avoid committing adultery. So again, in the 24-hour vows, I will avoid all sexual activity. And then this one is no, I will commit myself to avoiding adultery. Adultery means having relations with someone else's committed partner. So if you are committed to somebody and you're interacting with someone else, whether they are in a committed relationship or not, you are cheating on your partner. So that's adultery. If you're not in a committed relationship, but you go with someone who is in a committed relationship, that's adultery. If you are uncommitted and they are uncommitted, that is not breaking this vow. And then there are the fine lines. Yeah, I'm still committed, but we're getting separated. Yeah, but are you still committed? Well, no, I'm not emotionally committed. Are you still legally committed? Well, yes. Okay, right. You are off limits to me from my side. Right? So it's our own criteria, and it's just this very specific commitment that's getting broken. It's not the sexual activity, it's the interfering with the commitment, because that creates the seeds for having not trustworthy people in our lives. Not just partners not trustworthy, but nobody trustworthy. Ourselves not even trustworthy. And that makes for unpleasant living experiences, unpleasant work experiences. Nobody's trusting anybody, right? Because we broke through somebody's commitment, either our own or somebody else's. All right, then the fifth one, probably the most difficult of the 5, is I will avoid taking intoxicants. And technically it says I will avoid taking intoxicants or contributing to the intoxication of someone else's mind. And in the Vinaya, Abhidharma Kosha, actually, I think it was in there, that Buddha is quoted as having said that anyone who partakes of the amount of alcohol as a drop of dew on a blade of grass is not a student of mine. Like, he is really strict about that. And because of the effect that intoxicating our mind has on our ability to hold our behavior choices in check. A mind that's not bright and clear and uninfluenced can't make the decision, I'm close to harming a human or a human fetus. I'm close to telling a lie. I'm close to interfering, right? We can't tell. We can't discriminate clearly. So the intoxicating our mind would allow any of those others to happen that without the intoxication, we would never even get close to. And we say, yeah, but I would have to be really drunk. Well, how do you get really drunk? From having been partly drunk, right? And how do you get partly drunk? From having been a little bit drunk. And how do you get a little bit drunk? From having the first sip. And how do you get that? From even letting somebody pour you a glass. No, and how do you get that? Right. So we just keep backing off, and deciding where our line is that we need to draw. And it's difficult because our society, right, embraces the use of intoxicants so much that we're expected to participate. We are, right? And then they're all offended when we say no, because they think we're judging them as well, which, we probably are. But the whole reason of avoiding is to protect our own mind and hopefully set an example for others, in a longer term way. But this one is probably where we'll have the most pushback from people around us because of their reaction to your changing your mind. So it's delicate how you go about handling that with people. Hopefully you can do it gently. Some of the traditions that take these vows, the teachers will say, look, take any one of the 5 or any combination of the 5 and build up according to your capacity. Our particular lineage, through us to Geshe Michael, Ken Rinpoche, Pabonka, or Trijong Rinpoche, Pabonka Rinpoche, they say all 5 or none at all. Right? We've horsed around with the 1, 2, 3, 5, some combination in the past. Just come on, if you're going to take them, take all 5. And so that's how we were instructed to give them when we give them. It's like all 5. You can choose to avoid these behaviors without taking vows to avoid these behaviors. So you can certainly try them on for size first. And once you have the confidence that you could keep them, that would be when you would say, you know, to your preceptor or whomever, right, will you grant me these 5 vows? Now, interestingly, when we receive our bodhisattva vows, these 5 are included. So technically, if you have bodhisattva vows, you have these 5 vows, whether you knew it or not. If you were paying attention in the ceremony, you took them, at least in our lineage. Now there's an additional part to the 5 lifetime lay man, lay women vows, and that is the pledge to keep our refuge advices. So when we take our refuge, we hear about these 12 advices for how to live by way of our refuge. And they're often called refuge vows, but they're not vows, they're advices, because they aren't things that we can actually do so well that we would be able to be benefiting from keeping them. But as advices, yes, right? They will guide us to avoid taking refuge in anything but Buddha once we have refuge in the Buddha. But what that means is way beyond just the words. So in taking our 5 lifetime lay vows, we are also pledging to hold our refuge advices as supreme, they call it. Right? All right. But to break refuge advices really means something happens and we just like stop trying to avoid harming others. Stop trying. Like even when we're trying to avoid harming others, we will harm others. It happens. But we're trying. To break our refuge means I quit trying. I don't care. Right? Hopefully we'll never, any of us, get to that point. Someone almost always asks, what about being vegetarian then? No, if all of this is about giving up harming others, one of the very obvious ways we're contributing to harming others is how we eat and what we choose to eat. And we are either directly harming others in our procuring of that food and eating it, or we are contributing to someone else harming someone else so that we can get the thing that we're needing to eat, right? Poor field workers, when they're picking all that lettuce, there's all kinds of creatures that are being they're having fear and danger and harm and even dead. And the poor field worker themselves are out there in the sun suffering miserably. And we get this beautiful head of lettuce in the grocery store that we partake of, right? So effortlessly. And yet, haven't we contributed to all of that killing? And it's, yeah, but what do? We have to eat. So how do we minimize it, right? Who's getting harmed the biggest or the most? And how can I minimize that and still feed my body the way my body needs to be fed? Buddha didn't say you have to be vegan. He never said that. He said, you want to stop your suffering? Reduce the amount of harmfulness that you personally do or that you contribute to. So you decide, right, what your criteria is, what your level is. what happens over time as we apply this increasing level of conscientiousness of our own behavior is that our actual sensitivity to the Dharma will increase. Like our ability to like have these insights as to what does it really mean to avoid killing a human and human fetus. Like what are all the nuances of how that would play out in my personal life? Different for each of us, of course. And those deepening awarenesses of the subtleties of these instructions will push our spiritual capacity. Our willingness, like this criteria, to what extent do I need to accept I'm harming others so that I can feed this body what it needs? At first, we may still say, well, it's okay. It's okay to eat these kinds of foods. And then as our sensitivity grows, we may decide, no, actually, for me now, here's this level of foods that I'm not comfortable contributing to that happening. Like making the shift from being vegetarian to being vegan. At first it's like, okay, cows give milk, they have extra. I'm willing to drink their milk. And then our Dharma sensitivity increases. And at some point we decide, no, actually, if I'm going to drink milk, it has to be from a happy cow, who lives in the field and her baby doesn't need so much anymore. And she's happy to give me her extra. It's like, well, then I'll drink milk, but otherwise, no. It's our own decision. Right? Nobody's saying that's a better diet than to just drink milk, because maybe your body needs milk. Our own criteria, but our sensitivity will increase. Because having vows and keeping vows is planting so many increased level of kindness seeds that those kindnesses are influencing our awarenesses in a positive way. And so increasing our ability to be aware of the impact of our behavior in a more clear way, a more subtle way. So it's this upward cycle. All right. So next, Jetsunkapa's text brings up the first level of the definitely left the home life vows. The first level is called the Getsul. Here it is. It means the novice monk vows. It refers to the novice nun vows as well. The novice vows are the same for monks and nuns, but just like the lifetime lay man and woman, right? The vow is a different section. Still both under the category of Getsul. So there are 13 vows, and then additional, like there's primary vows, there's secondary vows, and then there are transgressions. And then they all make up 13 basic vows, but when those 13 basic vows are unpacked, you end up with 36 novice monk or novice nun vowed behaviors that make up that level. So the 13, what is he calling them? the 13 basic vows are divided into 3: Sawashi, Yenlakdruk, and Long Sum. Sawashi means the 4 root vows. So the 4 root vows of a novice monk or nun. They are the same 4 as the first 4 of the one-day vows. No sex, no stealing, no killing, no lying. So they are also the first 4 of the lifetime lay vows, but the lay vows are narrowed down and more specific, right? The ordained vows is the big category. Yenlakdruk is the 6 secondary vows within these 13 basic vows. 4 are primary, 6 are secondary. Those secondary vows include things like avoiding dancing, wearing flowers, wearing flower garlands, using luxurious furniture. Sound familiar? Avoiding eating after noon, handling money, and using intoxicants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those 6 secondary vows are these 6 things, right, that a monk or nun will avoid doing, because they would cause them to lose their heightened awareness of their discipline, right? They'd go dancing, get a little wild, somebody would hand them a beer. Oops, right? Because they just lost their mindfulness. Not that for lay people going dancing is any problem whatsoever. You don't have that in your lay vows. Unless you're doing your 24-hour day vows. Right? Got it? So last one, Long Sum, is called the 3 transgressions. So we have it. I don't remember where we are in studying vows. There's the primary vows versus secondary vows versus transgressions. The difference is the strength of the impact on our mind by damaging those vows. It's a bigger negativity to damage a primary vow than to damage a secondary vow, which is a bigger negativity than to damage a transgression. All of them are damages, but how we repair them is different, right? Because the impact is different. So when we have our ordained vows, we learn about those differences and how to deal with them, theoretically at least. So these 3 transgressions, the first one has to do with, I will avoid disrespecting my vow master. The second one is I will avoid keeping my lay appearance. And the third one is I will avoid failing to take up an ordained person's appearance. And then there are exceptions to some of these as well, which must be the case because we see our ordained people not in their robes. You know, nowadays more than we see them in their robes. But that doesn't mean that from their side, they have failed to give up their lay appearance. It means they're dressing themselves in some way through which they are telling themselves, I am not a lay person, even if they're not putting on their robes to do so. I understand that partly the reason that they don't teach everybody what the monastic vows are is because it would be harmful to the supporters to know the monks' vows and to be judging those monks as to whether the supporter is seeing the monk behave according to the vows. Because the supporter would be thinking, right, their judgment is right about what they're seeing that monk or nun do. And then they would either, right, want to support them more or decide they're not worthy of my support. But they would be not understanding the whole situation, of course, they couldn't. And so it would be harmful to themselves to know the vows and then judge the monk or nun. On the other hand, it also becomes a system where you're not letting the supporters have enough information for them to actually decide, is this monastic community behaving worthy of my support? Right? We should be able to choose, right? Whether the way they're using our resources is admirable or not. And we would need to know a certain amount about what their behavior is supposed to be. So it gets very, very slippery. This whole whether Vinaya is open or secret. Then true to form, Geshe Michael just puts it out there. He and Allison have been translating the text on Vinaya, and it is an open text. It's right there for all to find. And now he's got it in multiple languages available for everyone to see. So he's not breaking rules. He's translating a text that's available. It's always been available. Back in the olden days, people couldn't read. So although it was available, it wasn't useful. Now situations have changed. But then we would want to be careful that if we do know what an ordained's vows should be, that we use that information to say, well, that can be guidelines for my life too, even if I don't have those ordained vows. It's like maybe there's information that would help me there. And not then go and say, oh, these ordained people that I know, are they living like that? Right? That's not the point of learning the details of ordained vows. It would be for our own behavior. Okay. All righty. We will go on next, class, into the following this outline of the different vows that are available. So we'll go a little bit more into the layers of the monks and nuns' vows. Again, not the vows, even as much as we've done in this class, in next class. So we're not quite done with specific vows yet, halfway. But this is class 4. So remember that person we wanted to be able to help. We have learned a lot that we ourselves will use to grow our ability to help them in those deeper and deeper ways. And that's a great, great goodness. So please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy guide. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you, and then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom may. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. To share it with everyone you love. To share it with every existing being everywhere, everywhere. See them all filled with your love, influencing their choices, helping them be happy. And may it be so. All right. Thank you so much. Stopping recording. Stopping recording.